What up? No, that's not it.
Do you want
Immediately.
Do you want Redder to do it?
Popped out.
No. I can just do the regular thing, I guess. Hello and welcome to the MoxStars podcast.
And that's it.
Got it.
Hello and welcome to the MoxStars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Evan Kunai, and I am here with two of my colleagues. I got Jordan Garcia.
Yo, what up?
And Christopher Ritter.
Now that is the classic energy.
Hey,
Classic.
We're in it, y'all. We're doing another piece of this Phyrexia All Will Be One set review, and today we're covering Red. Ooh, baby. Some spicy cards in this set. And we've each chosen 2 rares or mythics and 2 commons or uncommons.
Give or take.
We're not going to talk about every single card because that's just insanity. I'm going to repeat that for every single part of the set review. Get used to hearing it.
We're just grabbing some cool cards to talk about. Like, if you want to spend 3 hours listening to somebody else do it or looking through this list, go for it. It's just, there's not a lot of value in that.
Yeah, this is one of the most hyped sets ever. Honestly, I haven't seen hype higher for a set in a long time.
And that's why we're going to review every card. That's what we keep
One by
saying.
one. Is that what? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
250 cards. Here we go.
All right.
I mean, this is such a hype set. Like, I mean, should I derail this?
Derail it.
Yo,
Go.
derail it, baby.
Yeah, I mean, if you look on like the Magic subreddits, like MTG Finance, it is wild what is happening right now with the value of this set. It is so inflated, even by pre-release weekend standards. Like, people are acting like you open a collector's pack and you land $100 in value off the bat, which is not true because they print a lot of crap at the crap factory and prices are going to normalize. So,
Crap Factory is great at making crap.
yeah, it's what they're known for.
Yeah, every pack on average, sells for now $3.50, $4?
I did just pay $7 a pack for a set booster.
Yeah, that's like justified though because you can have multiple rares, multiple uncommons that have value, but like,
same deal. And the collector's booster, even at the top, and you're paying $25 or whatever.
right. And so ultimately, the way this is going to level out in general is that the professor is going to do his box opening episode where he's just going to keep opening them and seeing how far he can go. And this is one of the sets where I think he's going to go really far.
Is it going to go infinite? Is this is it non-deterministic? The professor or?
But it's like cards can only cost so much because packs can only cost so much. So it's just going to level out eventually. While it is very erratic at the moment, I don't think cards are going to continue to be $10 a piece. Some of these Dominus are going to be cheap as hell.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where cycles, like the big cycles in the set, get a lot of attention, and I think this is one of them. And I think they're very, very cool. Don't get me wrong.
People like the cycles. People love to see that sort of stuff that goes throughout Magic's lore. It's interwoven. It's good set design, but
a 7-mana green creature that doubles your power, it's not worth $20.
Yeah, we saw that at pre-release. It just was not that good.
So we're talking about Red.
Anyway, trying to reference a green creature before we talk about the Red set review.
Yeah, I'm the one who derailed this, in fairness.
It was a great derail.
Ultimately, I agree with you. This is the first set we've seen all this, this previous sets have all had cumulative stories with bringing all the Praetors back together, and this is the first set we see them all back together. So it is no wonder why the hype is so high.
Last second derail. Don't spend any money on this for several weeks. Let this all
for months.
Mellow. The only thing I would buy in relation to the set is something not from this set, and that's Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief because it's going to blow up standard in a second.
Yep. Yeah, that
not financial.
Yeah, the Rat Priest is going to change the game for sure.
Yeah,
and that's right. We were talking Red.
Circling all the way back down to Red.
All right, let's get started. I'll kick us off. My first rare, I did choose a mythic. Let's start off with my mythic.
Spicy.
I chose Sulfim Mayhem Dominus for 2/2 red, a legendary creature, Phyrexian horror. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. You can pay 1 and 2 Phyrexian red, discard 2 cards, put an indestructible counter on Sulfim Mayhem Dominus. It is a 5/4.
I mean, that's even better than Tobran of the Red Fell, right?
Yeah. Tobran is deals 2 additional damage, but it doesn't like that doesn't discriminate between combat or non-combat.
Yep, and this doesn't have
Doubling it is significant.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think we said it, doubling it, any effect at any time, you can find a build to make this work.
I mean, and that too, they just chucked a whole bunch of doubling into this set. Like
Yeah, this whole
generically, doubling is good, and so for this set, Wizards just went, all right, if you like doubling, here's a bunch of doubling. Let's quadruple the doubling.
Yeah, part of the hype
Yeah.
on the set, it's like everyone reads one of these doubling cards and goes, I know exactly what I would do with that. So this is one of the more open-ended cards in the set where it's just like non-combat damage to anything an opponent controls, doubling that damage. And let's take it down to like the very bottom. If you're in sealed and you pull this, it is you're easily going to pull the trigger on discarding 2 cards to make this thing indestructible.
Yeah, the fact you don't have to like sacrifice creatures in some of them and stuff, like you don't have to like give up board value, board presence to activate that ability is actually kind of huge.
If you're swamped on lands, I'm more than happy to discard 2 lands to make this work.
Yeah, I mean, too, also, if you're playing mono red, which is the shell in standard that this is definitely going to fit in, like, once you hit 4 mana, that's the top end of your curve. You do not need those additional lands. You can just discard those and give this 5/4 chunky body
Yep.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about this card in standard. Like when I was doing the mono blue Jin climb to Mythic, I saw so much mono red, and I definitely think that I could see this guy being a decent top end for sure. Giving it indestructible and 5/4 on a 4 mana body is not nothing.
Well, we talked about mechanized warfare being good from Brothers War. Just imagine like these two curving out in the same set or like
3,
in the
4,
same deck.
because it's a replacement and then doubles, I think is how that works.
Yeah, mono red generally doesn't want to like curve out like that. I think they're more just like very flatlined in the 1 and 2.
Yeah,
like,
that's a lot of chunky stuff, but it definitely has some application. It's a big boy.
this is definitely considerable for a top end in those decks.
I think I like this as
consideration.
this might be one of my favorite from this cycle of the Dominus.
Yeah, I mean,
Totally.
it's just such a clean effect.
Yeah,
know?
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I would say for me in my ranking, I would say this is a tie. It's like 2A and 2B between this and one we'll talk about later, I'm sure, the black.
Just like how much more playable this is over the green one. The green one is 7 mana.
For sure,
Right?
top 5.
This one's
I think.
4.
Yeah, it's 4 mana, and it's a 5/4. Like,
Yeah, the other one's a 5 or 4/6, and I
Yes.
guess that it like doubles power and toughness.
bro,
but-
it doesn't even matter. It's absolutely insane that this is.
Stats don't
Readings.
matter.
Yeah.
They just print any number on these cards these days.
Okay, I'm going next, and I'm not starting with a mythic. I'm actually starting on the quote unquote low end. We're going to talk about Rebel Salvo. You guys familiar?
Oh, you're gonna go uncommon on us.
I'm going uncommon. You started on the top. I'm starting on the bottom.
Okay,
I'll meet
let's
you in the
go.
middle, pal. It is an instant uncommon, 2 and a red, affinity for equipment, and Rebel Salvo deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That permanent loses indestructible until end of turn. I'm bringing this up because removal's inherently good, and affinity is inherently good.
And also, indestructible is relevant in a limited environment.
It's
because
super
of the
relevant,
dominance
especially
cycle.
if you're the burn deck like this.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. We just talked about making creatures indestructible. It just kills most Dominus.
Yeah,
And also think about like gods too. The Theros
Seriously,
gods that
yeah.
if you're playing, I don't think you're playing this in Commander except for very limited things. But if you see them, it'll do it.
Yeah, and like there are equipment decks out there, not necessarily Commander, but like, equipment strategies. And I think they are constantly playing with equipment as a concept. We saw the equipment creatures from Kamigawa. Now we're seeing for Mirrodin equipments where they spawn their own 2/2.
Yeah, I'm for sure. Equipment is the next thing that I think Wizards is pushing as a piece of the game that's been underutilized.
Right. So is this card amazing? Meh. But affinity for artifacts, I think, is something, and I think it's something to kind of keep an eye on as we explore this. I think this is a year that's going to be very heavy in artifacts, and so keep your eye out for all these kind of payoffs. That I think we're gonna see some crazy stuff coming down the works here.
Yeah, I think this one has a high ceiling. Like it can just 2 equipments. I think a byproduct in Commander is just having equipments like Lightning
Right.
Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots. I think we all play them in some way.
Yeah, you need 2 of them to make this a
Like
1 mana spell, and
Shadow
that's
Spear,
achievable.
yeah,
Yep.
Shadow
Skull
Spear plus what were just Colossus Hammer, like
Swords.
Yeah.
or a sword. You know, like now you have a red deal 5 damage. It's pretty freaking good.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think there's another card out there that is just 1 mana instant deal 5
Lava
damage.
Axe.
Yeah.
Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah,
Or
and then you
Lightning
got a-
Axe, one of those. Something Axe.
Lightning axe. I think.
Some
Yeah.
combination of lava and lightning axes and
An element
something.
plus axe.
Yeah, but you
Red
gotta,
keywords.
Yeah, you gotta discard a card or pay an additional mana.
Sack a mountain.
Yeah.
Something like that. Cool.
Yeah, no, I think just kind of cool. We're seeing a lot of interesting stuff on the common uncommon slot, and that's actually I'm more interested in that in the set for like the kind of set mechanics and the fun stuff they're exploring there over most of the legendaries in the set or the mythics. Those aren't really doing it for me.
I mean, that kind of brings me to my pick, which is Koth Fire of Resistance, which is sort of just, it's not that interesting. It's an okay planeswalker, +2 search your library for a basic mountain card, reveal it, put it in your hand, -3, deals damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control, and -7, you get an emblem. When mountain enters the battlefield under your control, emblem deals 4 damage to any target. It's sort of just a generic Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle, but as a planeswalker.
Yeah.
There's some slots for it, but it's an interesting design space, to bring into standard, but it's not necessarily something that is unique, not a series of effects that traditionally I'm looking for on a planeswalker.
Right.
Especially
like a generically powerful one that slots in multiple decks for sure.
Exactly. This is going to find a home somewhere in standard. Those are powerful effects, but it's just not. It's just off a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and it definitely a build around. Definitely locks you into mono red, I believe, more often than not. But I will say in the Brothers War draft, I actually had quite good success when I went mono red aggro with the Sardian Cliff Stomper. That is a 0/4 unless you control 4 or more mountains, in which case he's a 4/4 and he's a 2 mana 4/4.
Okay, but that's
+X+ for each mountain you control.
Correct.
Right?
So it actually scales past it too.
I mean, but at 2 mana, that seems like all upside. Versus at 4 mana in mono red, there are much better things to be doing.
Oh, totally. I agree. I'm just saying, I'm just starting to see this mountain payoff kind of thing. And I think if we get a few more of them, then maybe this could be the top end somewhat. The other. Sorry, go ahead.
You go.
The other thought I had is I was going to ask you, are you going to put this in your Borborygmos deck?
No, I don't think it does enough. I mean, you're paying 4 mana for generic ramp essentially, and I would rather than playing a planeswalker which is vulnerable to creature damage and things like that, I'd rather play just Valakut itself, which is searchable in that deck because I have all the land tutors, and there's just better cards for this effect. Maybe in Commander at a lower power level there is a mono red Koth Fire Resistance plus Valakut, plus Blood Moon, plus Mages of the Moon, plus all in on those effects, getting a bunch of mountains out.
Right.
But I
still think we need more of them.
Yeah. There's just I just don't think there's enough here. It just seems too generic to me.
Yeah, this is one I read it and it almost feels out of place for how strong everything is in this set. This Planeswalker compared to the others really just kind of sits at the bottom.
This is the lead of the resistance, right?
Yeah, but in the story he turns Phyrexian, or he gets changed.
Oh, what a bitch, bro.
Yeah.
And so he's a weak Phyrexian and he's a weak rebel?
Yes, he's weak in both. Is actually the story spotlight card. Let me just find it quick. Awaken the Sleeper, 3 in a red sorcery, is actually really good for the steal effect. But overall, Koth, Fire of Resistance. Even if you're playing in Borborygmos, even if you are playing this, you don't have board presence until it matters when it's Borborygmos.
That's the thing I was thinking is if you're playing this on
this-
curve, you don't have creatures out until you cast Borby. So it's never, he's just going to die immediately. You're going to get a mountain off of it and then it's going to be.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather play Ren and 7 as far
100%.
as Planeswalkers
100%. I feel you on that.
All right, moving on. My next rare, I'm gonna go the traditional route. I'm gonna do mythic, rare, and uncommon. And I don't know if I chose an.
To be fair, I do think that is the non-traditional route. But
as non. You know what? Agree to disagree.
Agree to D.
All right. I chose Vindictive Flamestoker, 1 red creature Phyrexian wizard, a 1/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on Vindictive Flamestoker. 6 and a red, sacrifice Vindictive Flamestoker, discard your hand, then draw 4 cards. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each oil counter on Vindictive Flamestoker.
That's right.
Yeah, I love this card. I absolutely love it. It goes right into my AHHH deck. Like, no doubt in my mind.
Dude,
This takes a slot. Like,
that's hot.
Yep. Just refill the hand, keep it going, keep it
So
rolling.
1-mana wizard, like,
Yeah.
that's pretty damn good too.
Hey, it gets big, right?
Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, historically a great way to start a sentence.
Yeah. And AHHH loves to care about that too. So I think this card has a lot of room to grow, and it's just low enough. I think 1 mana is the lowest investment. I mean, one of the lower investments you can make in a creature that's just going to stick to a battlefield. We've seen Bomat Courier. While that's 1 mana to activate and sacrifice, and you get like whatever is stuffed under it. This is very similar and in that same vein of effect.
I'd say you're not getting more than 4 cards out of your Bomat Courier. Like, you're probably looking at a similar payoff for sure.
Yeah. So it's like this is likely going to be 2 or 3 mana to activate this. But when you're discarding, you're probably discarding nothing, and then you're drawing 4 cards, which is the ideal situation.
Right, you just like curve, get Adeline out on 3, your boy out on 4, Veyron.
Yeah.
It starts copying and all this bullshit, and all of a sudden
Doubling the effect, and all of a sudden it's like 2 or 3 spells, and all you need is and
1
then
red
just one
mana,
red mana.
4 more cards. Pretty dang good in a wizard deck.
Yep. I really, really like this card, and I'm excited to see its trajectory too.
Yeah. Proliferatable, as we're saying, is pretty decent these days.
Profiteroles. Yeah.
Profiteroles?
Yeah, you could see it build
Profitable.
around in this and like constructed for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all I got.
Sick, dude.
Cool.
Going on my traditional / non-traditional route, I would like to bring up my next uncommon. It is Bladegraft Aspirant. I almost just completely bungled that. Bladegraft Aspirant. Some of these Phyrexian words are pissing me off.
They're tongue twisters for sure.
It is a 2 and a red. I seem to love that mana value. For a 2/3 with Menace, it's a Phyrexian warrior. Equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Activated abilities of equipment you control that target Bladegraft Aspirant cost 1 less to activate.
Woo!
You like equipment. You're hot on equipment.
I'm out of equipment. I think it's just kind of talking about how they're developing and pursuing mechanics and kind of building them out, maybe with the mountain concept, with the equipment, equipment affinity. I think this is just good. There is a creature, I already totally fucking forget the name, but it costs way less to activate when you're equipping to it. It's also in red, so we're just starting to see this kind of building, and I think the more redundancy you get out of an effect, the more viable it becomes in certain strategies. Because either it's going to get reprinted and changed and tweaked in a way that the wording's better, the cost is lower, or
You get a critical mass of something, and all of a sudden,
exactly,
or
or you just get enough to make the deck actually happen. So like maybe we'll see enough cards that care about having mountains in red, and then you'll have a mountain deck. And I do think that equipment's kind of seeing a huge uptick right now, and something like this is going to be insane. Menace is freaking not nothing.
Yeah.
It's an excellent keyword.
Yeah.
Yep. I know we're all looking forward to like new equipment and how they're going to bolster equipment, but let's look back a couple sets to Kamigawa.
I think bolster is a different effect.
So confusing.
Let's look back to Kamigawa, because Kamigawa notably had equipment creatures. So this like is now in standard with those cards.
Totally.
So you can actually see build arounds with that. Even in Commander, if you're building a modified whatever, like this probably has a home.
Lion Sash is 1 singular white mana.
Yeah, that's good. And this
Then
is
equip it to this, and then it's got Menace, and you're like, that's pretty aggressive as hell.
yeah, and I will say the Menace to Society deck that I built on Arena is just not a good deck. It's just not a good deck, but I do want to put this in there because it has Menace, and I am playing a lot of that modified equipment stuff.
It
so
might be the
I
piece
do
that
love
makes it all come together.
Yeah, for 3 mana, I don't think so. This,
Menace equipment, that's the pivot.
yeah, I would rather have seen like a 1/2 for 2 than a 2/3 for
I agree, and the card I'm referencing, which, God, I wish I could remember right now, is definitely way cheaper than 3 mana. 3 is a lot, but it's still cool.
Hey guys, talking about good rates,
Hit me with it.
Hex Gold Slash. I think
idea.
this is a card that it's a common.
Okay.
1 red, it's an instant, deals 2 damage to target creature. If that creature is toxic, Hex Gold Slash deals 4 damage to that creature instead.
Yeah.
This is excellent removal in limited. If you're, if you're
Totally.
drafting this, it's a great card.
Evan and I did just do this pre-release, and pretty much every creature has Toxic on it.
Yeah, boots on the ground. Did you see this card at pre-release?
I did not. No.
Oh,
Honestly,
okay.
No, it wasn't in any of my packs.
I mean, four damage for 1 mana. Excellent rate.
I would
1 for 2 at instant in limited is even decent.
Yeah. Baseline, it's a shock. I mean, it doesn't go to the face, but baseline, you know, it does 2 damage for 1, which is a decent rate in limited.
I would have liked it if it said it deals 2 damage to any target. If it targets a creature with Toxic, then it deals 4 damage.
Much better
A
card.
lot of words.
Hey,
It's actually less words than what
power
it has on.
creep will get us there in about 6 months. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Got him.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. It's a super cool piece of removal. Probably not going to see it outside of limited that much, but we'll see. I mean, maybe with like the standard environment, we don't know. Toxic might be hugely prevalent.
yeah, are you guys
Definitely.
playing a lot of standard right now, or?
Not as much, no, but
We'll be diving back in because of this set. We'll be playing
Correct.
a lot more Arena.
I don't know if you guys have heard me talk about Blue Sun Zenith and how I think it's a freaking beast of a card, but I definitely want to slot it into that Jin deck and take it for a spin.
Yeah.
And it should be actually up this week, so let's freaking go.
Hell yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hop on this next one. And guess what? It's not a common or an uncommon. It's a freaking mythic. We're talking about Red Sun's Zenith. It's not a mythic. It's a rare.
It's not even the Zenith, bro. You're
Yeah, Red Sun's Twilight.
Oh,
boy.
God. Oh, my God.
You hate to see it.
Oh, it's embarrassing.
All right,
Let
just
me
kidding.
just,
We're
let me
talking
just,
about All Will Be One. This is a mythic, yubbish. It is an enchantment, and it's not very good. It
What
says
card are we talking about?
All Will Be One.
Okay.
Yeah. I was lost for a second, but
All right.
Apologies. Cut it out. Next card. Evan, cut this right here. Next card. All Will Be One. It's an enchantment for 3 red. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, All Will Be One deals that much damage to target opponent, creature and opponent controls, or planeswalker and opponent controls. So it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, but here's
But
the
also
thing.
it's not.
The catch is that this card is in red, and a lot of the proliferate is not in red.
yeah, this is the you could say it's the token big red enchantment from the set. Like they've been doing it with a lot of sets where it's just like a meaningless, large, like big mana investment enchantment that doesn't do much without a build around.
You can't play this
It
unlimited.
sounds like it should do something, but I'm struggling to think of like when are you putting counters on things in red? Like when does
Right.
that really go down?
This is like a 3-color minimum deck to make this happen.
Yeah.
With all the stuff. And yeah, that's just way.
all the enablers for it are outside red's color identity.
Exactly.
It feels like.
Notably, this does go infinite with the Red Terror from the Warhammer 40k deck. So whenever you put a counter on something, or whenever you deal damage, you put a counter on it, and then
What's the CMC of that guy?
it's 6 mana.
Ooh, playing a little battle cruiser.
Little 11 mana combo.
Imagine a Jeweled Lotus with a mana crypt and a land.
Got him.
Ooh, get a coveted jewel in the mix too.
Yeah. Good luck
Wow.
getting to 5 mana on turn 2 to
Yeah.
play this thing.
Yeah, it's
So-
some stupid mono red combo deck that's garbage.
Yeah. It's like it does notably go infinite with that. And I've been
That's
reading,
good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I've been reading it, and whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent player, deals that much damage. It's at pretty much any target, right?
Yeah, speaking of too many words, I do like that it targets anything. Like usually there's the restriction of it doesn't hit one of the things, but it hits,
We were just talking about it.
it hits all of the things.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
can't pop your own things because there's too many loops to do that. Like,
Oh, yeah, sure. That
Yeah.
opponent controls. Yeah.
Yep. So, when I saw it spoiled, it was a little bit confused. I think everyone was confused that it was named All Will Be One, and it's a mono red enchantment in a set where all 5 Praetors come together in a set. It should be 5 colors, but I'm not complaining here. I think that we'll find a home in like kitchen brews, like
Yeah, this
like
is cash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's too powerful if you can enable it, but there's no clean route to enable it.
Correct.
I think.
I think the coolest thing I can think of is just like a permanent that comes down and then puts counters on itself. Like we have a few of the
Yeah.
cards that have put oil counters when ETB is. Like there's lands that enter with counters on them and stuff like that. So, you could just be like play a land, deal 2 damage to something, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I had definitely wondered, like, when we went to pre-release last night, I was sitting there and I was just wondering, what if I pulled it? Like, what if I pulled it? How would I build that deck? And you have to have a real greasy, oily deck in order to make it work in limited.
Yeah.
So
I don't think you play as unlimited.
no.
Like at all.
Honestly, if you pulled it, I would just set it off to the side unless your deck is just
It's a neat card to take home.
But
yeah. Unless you go mono red.
if you wanted to buy this terrible, terrible card, you can get it for $15.
Ouch, that hurts.
Yeah.
That's for the
What's
basic. By the way.
what's the alt art?
For the non-foil. For the
Yeah.
foil is 20.
Yeah, I mean, give it some
course.
time. That there's no way it floats
Is
up
there-
there.
Is there no showcase, no
No
borderless?
showcase for their big mommy.
Wow.
It is. Oh man,
It's actually kind of weird.
This set is a mess for figuring out.
It doesn't
the,
make sense.
the different versions of things that are available.
Also, can we stop changing it for every single set?
Yeah, have a consistent way to do it. Of like, hey, this kind of stuff is going to show up in the collector's packs.
I honestly-
this kind of stuff shows up in the set boosters.
Yeah.
Don't create new types of
Every
packs.
set.
Don't change. Yeah.
Literally every set, they're like, here's what you need to know about it. Like, a breakdown of every freaking product guide, which is like, there's 100 products.
Can you imagine being in the office and someone goes, "Hey, dude, I just realized we didn't make a premium foil option for All Will Be One. Like the enchantment, the card in the set." And
For
they look-
which set didn't we do that?
like yeah, and then the guy goes, "Yeah, because nobody's gonna want that card." Like, it's
Yeah,
like,
it's a trash card.
But why make it the titular card of the set then? Like, make that a better card.
yeah, it just doesn't make much
Well, it's
sense.
disheartening.
Yeah.
Don't make the Phyrexian language, Phyrexian arena be in the Phyrexian special gift box for the set.
Right.
Maybe make this card good, and that's the special card.
I do wish this was $100
home run.
more raised ink foil, all in Phyrexian, so I can't read it.
Oh, for sure.
That would be sick. $150.
So sick. But they did release the dictionary, so you can translate it.
I did see that.
All right, moving on. We can talk about how worthless that card is all day, probably. My next card is probably the card I'm most excited to talk about because it has potential in multiple formats. It is an uncommon Phyrexian Goblin Warrior, that last type being very, very important. It is Cacophony Scamp. 1 red mana. Whenever Cacophony Scamp deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. If you do, proliferate. When Cacophony Scamp dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. It is a 1/1.
That's a lot of relevant text.
For a 1 mana, yeah, it's pretty insane.
Yeah, and we were talking about equipment earlier, and this one just so happens to synergize with one equipment in particular, and that is Colossus Hammer. So in Pioneer, Historic,
Oh, that's 11 damage fling right there.
yeah, it is. It is a instant kill. It is a turn 1, Sigarda's Aid, turn 2, Cacophony Scamp, and then a Colossus Hammer or whatever. Or, well, Cacophony Scamp, turn 1, turn 2, Sigarda's Aid, cast a Colossus Hammer. It equips itself, becomes 11 damage. You swing, make contact, fling it, and then kill the opponent. So it's there's another card that from
Very
Zendikar Rising. It's called Resolute Strike. And this is why the warrior part is important, because it is for 1 white mana at instant speed. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's a warrior, you may attach an equipment you control to it.
This is a sick deck.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Sick as fuck.
Evan,
Yeah.
why don't you junk your garbage ass menace deck and build this then?
Burn it, start over. 4
Garbage. I tried really hard to make that
Unlike
work.
All Will Be One, you can get 4 of these for $1.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's a good rate.
Yeah, isn't that kind of a crazy deck?
No,
Where
that's sick.
It doesn't sound like it's out of the realm of possibility to happen
all 1 mana.
consistently. Yeah.
No, I mean, Hammer Time is a real deck. If you can build it out of alternate pieces in a different format, try it.
Standard.
Yeah, the bones are there.
Yeah, there's a couple subreddits that are just talking about this right now. Is like, is Hammer Time been reinvigorated with this? Like, this does make it more viable.
Is Hammer still in standard?
No.
Oh, word.
It was reprinted in the last couple Commander decks for Adventures in the Forgotten.
But I think you have all the pieces in Pioneer for it, right?
Sure.
Or
Yes, you do.
or Historic.
Yeah, Pioneer or Historic.
Yeah.
For when you want to play against Oracle at the Alpha,
Yeah, so this has a lot of potential. I don't know if Hammer Time becomes, because if Hammer Time becomes a thing, if it's so strong, there are just a lot of decks that have like sort of established themselves. If it's so strong that it requires attention, the only way this card ever gets expensive is if it becomes ban worthy. Like, it's so consistent, and then they would end up banning one of the pieces. I don't know if they would ever kill the deck, but Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't think this like breaks Hammer.
No.
Like more than what Hammer has already been broken, and Hammer's only $3.
Yeah, Hammer.
So I don't see this being.
Yeah, Hammer is also just a powerful deck that is not inherently broken. Like it's not possible to really break it. I feel like there's a ceiling to how powerful it is.
That's fair.
Because of the glass cannon nature of it.
I guess just by broken, I mean breaking the hammer mechanic, and that's what you're taking advantage
Yeah,
of.
no, but that's what I'm saying. There's a
it's-
limit to how powerful those synergies can ever
100%.
be in that deck, I think.
There's just
This does double like the potential of that deck, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if we see enough of that support, maybe it comes back around.
But I mean, this card too, super powerful card, but I mean, it dies to every piece of removal.
100%.
It is.
And I think that's what keeps the power level in check there.
Right.
It keeps it,
I mean, if you're playing in a format that everybody's just trying to kill like a Ragavan or anything like that,
This dies,
You're
yeah.
never gonna. They're always gonna have it.
Yeah.
it's red flags immediately. Like if you open up the game right and they're going first and they Mountain or Sacred Foundry, if they play a Sacred Foundry, you know something's up, right? And then they drop this on turn one. It's like, okay, like literally the one piece of removal I have in my hand, that is eating it.
Yep.
Yeah, or you're mulliganing to make sure you have that removal in your hand to start the game.
Exactly.
You know? So
Yep. So really intriguing card, can definitely make waves in multiple formats. I think it's definitely worth talking about.
yeah, that's super fun. Like
no, for sure.
I'd like to see that deck in action,
Totally. Yeah.
which you'll be streaming on Twitch later this week.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll try to get on there and see if I can build this deck because it does look like a ton of fun.
I'll try and get on there soon. Do some grinds with the blue gins. Start stealing everybody's shit.
0 logons of Arena for me.
I love that. I respect it. Keep it up.
Control yourself.
All right, I'm talking about my last card. I actually have it this time. It's called Red Sun's Twilight. It's a freaking rare, bro. And it's a sorcery for X, red. It is destroy up to X target artifacts. If X is 5 or more, for each artifact destroyed this way, create a token copy of it. They gain haste, exile them at the next end step. I'm glad you don't get to keep them. I think that'd be insane.
That is has a huge upside over an overloaded Vandal Blast. I
Correct.
don't think it's as good as Vandal Blast.
In my head, this is a closer comparison. I totally agree. Biforce, which is X and a red, destroy up to X target artifacts. You add the X red with the huge upside of if late game, you're fighting an artifact deck. I just don't know how much you're going to get that payoff.
Everything in this cycle, if you can hit the X equals 5, has a huge payoff.
Huge payoff, which is great.
But are you going to do it?
In my head, like the blue one where you're taking something and then copying it is
Yep.
way better than destroying 5 artifacts and copying them until end of turn. Because
Yeah. Or a Genki Reanimator spell in black.
exactly,
or-
yeah. So I don't think it's the best in the cycle, but I do think mass removal for artifacts with the year, like I said, coming up with artifacts everywhere, equipment's maybe going to be everywhere. We'll see. Not nothing.
Yeah, it might be the best answer in mono red, whatever that deck ends up being.
Yeah.
That might be a 1 or 2 of.
Probably a sideboard card.
Yeah,
but
definitely sideboard hook.
But mono red aggro with that, a couple on the sideboard, that made sense to me.
Yeah, I see for my style and the way that I like to play, I actually don't want to praise this card too much because X red, in order to get the 5, you'd have to pay 7 mana, and then you create token copies of the artifacts you destroyed, and then you exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So when I think about that, all that text together, I start thinking about how many are like non-token sacrificable artifacts do my opponents control at any given time, and like what good do they do me without having a mana investment? Like I have to invest more mana. Like if I pop an equipment, it's like, well, I gotta pay to equip it now,
Yeah.
So I wonder like what you could be hitting in order to like benefit yourself. Where like it comes over to your side of the field. Like when you said by force, I'm like, by force is nuts. Like
Yeah,
right? So
it's
there's
definitely a better card.
yeah, like
Losing that 1 red is everything.
I mean, there might be a reason to do this in Commander where you're popping a bunch of mana positive rocks and then you're maybe doubling the mana available to you that turn.
Exactly.
But at this point, why not just fucking go infinite in any of the ways you can go infinite in Commander?
That was
you know?
what I was going to say was I think this is one of the better ones at scaling to Commander, which we have not seen a lot of cards we're interested in bringing to Commander necessarily, where I think this one does significantly better than Limited. Like, if X is 5, are you really destroying 5 artifacts? Like, are you going to be hitting in a 1v1? Is there going to be 5 artifacts on the battlefield? Probably
No,
not.
no way.
Literally never.
Nope.
But in Commander, literally all the time, and they're way better artifacts. you're stealing mana crypts and like lands. Get one of some of those artifact lands. Yeah, give me that shit.
I just don't think you need to exile them at the beginning of the next end step, and that's where I think the card falters. Is like if I'm paying 7 mana to wipe the field of like mana positive rocks or whatever, I should get to keep those rocks until they're blown up.
But what if it's
they're
like
token copies?
You hit like a Sword of Feast and Famine, Bolus's Citadel, like.
But my feeling is,
Then
anytime a card lets you win more, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, unless it's breaking something open new, just who cares? Because you're already winning. So
Yeah.
win more at that point.
totally.
Who cares?
Yeah,
Pile on.
If I pop this off for 7 mana, it does not get countered, and I get a Bolus's Citadel and a Feast and Famine, I'm going to get in your face. I'm going to go, let's go!
I still don't think it'd be busted. 100%. Like I wouldn't have any qualms if it didn't exile.
Yeah. I feel like it could. There are lines of text that are included now in the game that almost seem meaningless. That makes me just scratch my head at what R&D is thinking. Like, we just figured out that Writhe Liberated Primeval has a very nuanced line of text. I thought that it would deal damage to any number of, deal damage to any creature, and then it counts the instances of creatures dealt excess damage, and then you create dragons that like to that number. It's not. It's just like one instance of a creature, doesn't matter how many, was dealt excess damage, you create a dragon. I'm so, why'd you cap it?
See, I'm thinking like the 1-mana creatures that like Allosaurus Shepherd that like just keep getting more and more lines of text.
Yeah.
But now in the big bombs, just 7 mana spell technically here, if you're like trying to max it out, like they're adding more text that makes it worse. Like the more you go down, it's just like exile at the end step. But like the Allosaurus Shepherd is like, and make some 4/4s for like fun of it.
But also at the same time, like, what is going on in R&D where they're like, I think this Shatterstorm with an upside is too powerful.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
what could possibly?
They're like, let's be cautious here.
Even in Commander.
Literally.
Even in Commander, what is the worst you could do?
Yeah, I know they're like trying to they're really trying to balance multiple formats here, and they've done a good job while also creating great cards for multiple formats.
Prove us wrong. Prove that you can break this
Honestly,
card
what do you think
without
about
it being a like Rube Goldberg device.
Here's my theory on how to make Magic the Gathering better in 2023. Put less shit on 1-drops and put more shit on 7-drops.
That seems so simple.
I just think that would actually help a lot.
Yeah, it would. It would. I want to like be able to play a 5 to 7 drop and have it impact the game in the way that Ragavan impacts the game.
Right. Like most of the time we don't even consider playing shit like that because it is way too expensive. It's counterable, and it usually still doesn't win you the game, so you might as well be doing something else.
Incentivize playing higher up the curve.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I cast a 7-8 mana spell, like I want a table of 3 other players to fucking feel that I just did that.
Yeah, I think that's what the Dominus are trying to do. Like they're trying to create an incentive to like climb the curve, like create this indestructible doubling effect, whatever. And people are so overhyped on the white Dominus. Like I'm sorry to say it, but you're never going to curve to that in a format other than Commander.
A mechanic where you're just doubling another mechanic is just lazy building, by the way. Super. You're just like, do it twice? Oh, we need more? I don't know. Give it indestructible.
Guys, I have an idea.
Give it indestructible counter, a counter that doesn't even exist in the rest of this format. Anyway,
what if we started in like March of the Machines? What if we had a card that like tripled an effect?
That would be sick.
That would be crazy.
Fiery Emancipation.
Oh,
what if just for giggles we just stapled it to an unrelated card? Is that Wizards design space?
One of Baleful Strix plus triple damage.
Yeah, if that's a snowballing effect we're like rolling towards, like the game is doomed by 2035.
It's just like we were talking about Pokemon. We're just like, you don't need to add 250 new Pokemon every generation because you're just going to run out of ideas. Makes sense, right? Like maybe just do less. Like maybe come up with less cards and you guys would not be running out of ideas for cards.
Do less.
Yeah. Had they not pushed Shock, like we talked about that, the card you brought up, Ritter, the 1 mana like Shock with incentive to like hit and like toxic creatures. Had they just stuck with Shock and then maybe had more utility that didn't overwhelm Shock, like just completely push it out of the power range, I think we would still have a much more balanced game. We'd have a much healthier format just in general. You could reprint Shock into every standard set, and it would still see play.
I mean, I do like retooling common cards that you're used to seeing to fit with the set mechanic, like the shock meets toxic, whatever. I don't know. I just think they could do less and actually put out more quality shit. Because we're just seeing like these big sets. This is, like you said, this is one of the most hyped sets, and I'm finding the 0 cards I would like to purchase. Right
Yeah, it's as as wide as an ocean, as shallow as a kiddie pool, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's make it a little deeper.
Yeah.
That's just beautifully well said. I don't have anything else to talk about the red.
Yeah, and I think we're at time for this episode.
I have my last card's Gleeful Demolition.
Oh, sorry, get at it.
1 red, sorcery, destroy target artifact. If you control the artifact, create 3 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature.
This one is pretty
See,
sick.
now there's some artifact destruction with upside right there.
I like benefiting destroying your own thing. I want to see more of that.
We know that typing is becoming more and more important. Like I said, with like this, the cacophony is a warrior. Like, it's a warrior, and that warrior text is going to come in handy at some point or another. So Gleeful Demolition, the fact that it creates 3 goblins is going to be relevant for like this.
That's been relevant since the history of Magic the entire time.
Yeah, so this immediately gets plugged into pretty much every Krenko deck, any deck that is just generating a ton
That
of
makes sense,
goblins.
because you can
and
still
lords.
just remove an artifact, and then
Which
if
is
you
good.
happen to have one.
Yeah, how many treasures are there in the game now? How many clues are in the game?
Yeah, I mean, if you're
Food.
if you're playing goblins like Goblin Tribal, like there's no reason to not play this over like a braid or something if you don't need multiple redundant effects.
Yeah.
Just throw that in there, and there's upside, there's utility.
I'm interested to see how like that red deck that uses this like really maximizes it efficiently. Like, what cheap artifacts are you playing to just curve out and hopefully have maybe 3 goblins on turn 1?
I mean, there's
feel-
there's plenty
There's
of
gotta be that
artifacts
world, right?
that haven't just random ETB draw a card stapled to them, and then you get your value out of it, or you get your chromatic star value out of it. You're playing that early in the curve, and then later in the game, hey, I would rather have 3 goblins.
It's a 2 mana 3 goblins.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, this card, I see it having like a lot of impact in Standard probably while it's around, and definitely having a lot of impact in Commander over the course of its life. This is one where I would see it and I would go, this is probably a $3 foil in 3 years.
Yeah, it's not generically powerful. It's just like the deck that needs it will take a good advantage.
It's got the right synergies. It fits into a slot in the design space.
Like, I'm thinking Dargo, like Dargo loves bodies to sacrifice. So it's like any sacrifice deck or anything that kind of mills and gets that advantage, like it's the machine turning, like it's 3 bodies for 1 mana.
Or if there's, if you're in some sort of aristocrat deck that reaches into red and you have an incidental artifact creature that you want to sacrifice for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Hey, why not?
I think that you can even top deck this late game in an aristocrats build, like you were saying, like Jund decks that want this. I mean, freaking Corvold probably wants this because it's 3 more bodies he can eat.
You're playing Dockside, all that shit. Like, easy enough. Pop a treasure.
Might not need all your treasures.
Yeah. So I think that even late game, this can like come in handy to create those 3 extra bodies to do whatever you need them to do.
Yeah. It's a pretty fun card.
Yeah. I mean, set overall, very fun.
Very fun.
Though we like vented pretty hard on it and like criticized it pretty heavily, still very fun. I had a great time playing it pre-release.
Yeah, I think what we were talking before we started recording is it's a really fun set, like, to think about as a limited environment. I think it's very like well self-contained and lots of cool stuff going on. There's just not a lot of permeation I'm seeing to other formats that's really piquing my interest.
Yeah, it's just not vibing.
Like, there's maybe some standard stuff we'll see and stuff. Like, Toxic will have some, like, there are some cards that will reach out, but just as a whole, like, nothing I want to take to Commander and shit. I just want to draft this.
Yeah. If that being said, if you guys would love to support us, you can subscribe, like, and hit that little bell on the video here on YouTube.
Yup.
And you can find us on most podcasting platforms. Thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned for more of the set review as we come back around. We're going to be doing Black next. So stay tuned, and bye-bye.
Deuces.
See ya.